All right. Well, there are some epic moments in life. I think the birth of Jesus Christ was a huge one, probably a huge one. People look at that as a massively huge moment. The invasion of Normandy, and certainly I think this day is right up there, because this is a day where not only am I able to be on this amazing broadcast with the Butch Hartman community, but I've got a special guest who not only was hard to pin down, but hard to pay. Do you know how many things I had to sell to get you on here? I had to sell half of my kids' inheritance. I had to sell my house to pay Rob to be on this. This is a great privilege. The great Rob Paulsen is here with me today, and the community members. We are just thrilled. If you guys don't know who Rob Paulsen is, and you should, but I'll give you a brief resume. And Rob, I can only give a brief resume because if I gave your whole resume, we'd be done it would take our whole time up. So you've done so many things.
Thank you. First of all, anytime Bob and Lee Paulsen's oldest kid is mentioned in the same conversation, that Jesus liberating Europe, at the same
and this day
on a Thursday, that's really big. Now, also, thank you for that. Also, it's interesting you meant that, you wanted to give a brief history of my resume. I now print my resume on my briefs. So I will, is
there a rim shot sound effect on Zoom?
No, it is absolutely a pleasure to be here, pal. As I know I'm preaching to your choir, but as you folks all know who are watching and who will watch, you really have hitched your wagon to the best of the best. I have had more than my share of good fortune in Hollywood in the funny cartoon business, and when you get to work with a fellow Michigander who has achieved what Mr. Hartman has achieved and shares it with all of us. I have worked on maybe 4 things with you over the years, and Tara, Carlos,
Darren.
Yep, Darren, you continue. Jeff Bennett, you always are very generous, Butch, and you encourage us to do things that add to the show. You don't put the kibosh. You don't say, no, I didn't write that. You're very encouraging, and we actually get a part in creating it, which is such a joy. So thank you, my friend.
Well, my brother, it's people that are watching this right now, they're oh, there's Butch, there's Rob, that's kind of cool, a couple old guys, but you and I, and we'll get into your resume in a second because you've done so many things, but you and I, we started working together. No one really knows this except for you and I think. We worked on a show at Hanna-Barbera in the 90s called Gramps. Right. It was a pilot that I was pitching. I'm always pitching pilots. I had a pilot called Gramps with a co-writer guy, a friend of mine I was working with. And it was about an old grandpa who would tell these crazy stories of his past to his grandkids, which I think would still have been a killer series. But you played the grandpa. That's how I met you. And I always thought of you. You were so great at that. I thought, I would love to call this guy back sometime. And so as the years went on, sold Fairly OddParents, sold Danny Phantom, sold things. And I would just try and include you in my little universe as much as I could. And not only was it a joy, it was you just lit it up and the audience just loved it. I mean, all the characters you've done. Let me just list a couple. You did the voice of Mark Chang in Fairly OddParents.
Oh, man. That's one of those ones where I have to take a little breather between my speeches or my lines, bro, because I blow it out. It's just...
What I love about that was back in the days, that was in the year 2000, I think, where people had to actually come in and physically audition. You came in for a physical audition. I had like 30 guys in the lobby, and you were the second guy in.
Is that right?
Yeah, you were the second guy in. And it was for an alien. Mark's an alien. And everybody else was coming in doing an alien voice. I'm an alien and all that stuff, which would have been fine.
Sure.
But you came in and went, yeah, what's up? You were this surfer from like the bad part of Malibu. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so... like Malibu High School, the non-rich part, like that kid. I mean, that voice we can write for that character. And then,
From
but then I had to sit through 28 other guys, but it was so great, dude.
the stupid part of Malibu. Yeah. Uh, and then, oh my God, you hired Lorraine Newman to be my mother.
I
I
know.
mean, what a blast. And of course, again, you guys all know how brilliant the show was. How many seasons did that last?
Fairly Odd went for 10 seasons, but
Yeah.
it really went for more because we made a bunch of animated movies. They
Right.
would pause between seasons and we do little things. I mean, I always say it went like 20 seasons. We were on for 24, we were on for 18 years.
Yeah.
And not counting the original shorts I did. Dude, it's still running now. And I'm very
I know.
blessed and grateful. And they rebooted it. There's a whole reboot that's doing
Oh my
gangbusters,
goodness.
and we're thrilled about that.
Yeah.
But
And I'm with you. Whenever I see you at these events, I have the great fortune of watching, your fans as they come up and
well, you're fans too.
well, yeah, but what we love about these events, you guys, is that the 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 show, although Butch's stuff ends up on the screen, we know how iconic it is, etc. The show is in the studio. That's what you don't get to see. You don't get to see Butch and his incredible writing production staff turn a bunch of us loose and we take these scripts that are already laugh out loud funny, and because we are encouraged to do what we're doing now, which is just play, because Butch
Riffing, yeah.
is smart enough to know that he's got people in there who can give him stuff that whether he uses it or not, the energy brought to bear in creating the world that Butch has set up for us ends up on the screen. And that's why the shows on which I've worked, including Butch's, in which we're encouraged to say, hey, on this line, can I try this? Sure. That doesn't mean it's going to end up. But what it does do is it shows such respect on both sides of the glass so that that joy ends up on the screen. And
Yeah.
nobody's going, oh shit, I shouldn't say that. It's like, say whatever you want. Let's play. We'll cut it up later.
Exactly. And the thing was too, it's like, and I think you'll agree with me when I say this, because you're the voice actor here. I do some voices, but I wasn't like a pro like you were. You're just so epic. There's funny voices, but then there's the acting part that comes on top. Am I correct?
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, and that's true. And that's why all of us say small v, large A. Um, the people whom you have, uh, oh my goodness. I mean, just, I don't know any of the regulars on the shows in which I've been fortunate to work with of yours who don't have a live performance background, whether it's stand up, uh, theater,
Broadway.
Broadway,
Mhm.
music, episodic television,
Yeah.
whatever. Susie Blakesley, Darren, Tara,
Yep.
Carlos,
Hmm.
all of us, Freddie Tatasciore, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And, David from Danny Phantom, David
Hmm.
Kaufman,
Hmm.
uh, Gray,
Yep.
over and over and over again. It's about acting. So when people send you or me or come up to us at a show and said, Mr. Hartman, I have to tell you, I've really been inspired and I am all about being a voice actor. Why are you an actor? No, but I blah, blah. Okay, well, it doesn't mean that you have to go and join a theater company. However, the
Hmm.
reason you like Fairly Odd Parents is because it was well conceived, it was well written. We built a world. We cast it with good actors, and
Hmm.
the when you create a character and you hire an actor like Susie or Tara to give it a soul and naturally a voice that comes out of that soul. It's not, it sounds really highfalutin, but it's the truth. That's why you
Hmm.
can watch Bugs, who's 80 or 70, and watch it all day long
Because the
because
Mel Blanc. I mean, loved Mel Blanc as a kid, obviously, but I really came to appreciate him later on in life when I became a producer, going, my
Oh
God,
my
this guy did every
God.
voice on that show
Yeah.
and did them all at 100%. Like he was never tired, he was never
Never.
weak. And he would switch, Yosemite Sam, Bugs Bunny, and Daffy all in the same, episode. And you're like, what? And they were all different characters.
Yes. He's an actor.
Incredible.
You know, if you guys go to um, Radio Classics, I think it's still on Sirius XM radio, but
Right.
you can listen to Mel Blanc on the Jack Benny show from the 40s.
Mm.
And man, I'm telling you what every time I think I'm getting good at this, I just go back to Mel and think, or Peter Sellers, people like that who did radio, and they were
Yeah.
spectacular actors, and that's why you can listen to Duck Season, Wabbit Season, and you know what's coming, but it's just so beautifully acted.
But it's today. I mean, even today, you can turn those cartoons on. But let's look,
Yeah.
I hate to do this. I want to get to your stuff because everybody was watching here for you.
Okay.
It's my turn to exalt you a little bit because I just want to go over just several of the voices you've done. For me, Mark Chang, Fairly Odd Parents. You did the voice of BIRDBRAIN from Tough
Yes, I
Puppy.
did. Oh dear, I stole it from
Yes,
Jonathan Harris
my favorite
because he's
line.
dead.
My favorite bird brain line was when you were talking about the nightclub you go to because he was a blue bottomed booby. So
Oh
your
yeah.
favorite nightclub was the Groovy Movie. Going to, going to the Groovy Movie.
Yes, and don't you think I know it? I've been going to the men's room there for years, and I know everybody. Oh no, I,
And then you did now Danny Phantom,
yeah,
Jack Fenton, and
right.
then you did the Box Ghost, which
You
is,
were.
oh dude, do you know the popularity of the Box Ghost? Have
I,
you encountered?
I do because of conventions. I had
Yeah.
no idea. Honestly, people come up and they say, "Man, would you just say beware as the box goes?" Sure, beware.
Oh, they're dying. I know. And that was like that was an off the cuff character. We had like a script that said like Danny fights a minor ghost, and then the bad guy shows up, and we're like, well, who's
Yeah,
the minor ghost? Who's the? And we're like, well, I guess it was like is a dock worker. Maybe he's like haunts boxes. What is this? And then you come in. You weren't even supposed to do that part. It was supposed to be like just the main guy you were doing, and you kind of threw that in, and
yeah.
that's the popular character.
Well, but see, there's a great example of when you know with whom you're working and you trust them. I If you're nice enough to hire me, I'm smart enough to know what I don't know, which is what you do. Okay. So the trust you give to all of us when you say, Robbie, I've got this character. He lives in a box, so we're going to call him the Box Ghost. And
Right.
I know that we're fixing to jump the shark on this one, but what have you got? Let's see what happens. Now, in my view, what happens in these circumstances, and you've seen this, when you have an actor whom you trust and you're friendly with, we're buddies, with all the actors, um, and you trust what they do. When I get that opportunity, I don't look at it as like, oh shit, I hope I don't screw it up. I look at it as, hey, the worst that can happen is that I have a blast, and Butch says, fair enough, dude. Carlos, if you got something, it's it
Right.
doesn't hurt my feelings.
Right.
I do know from experience that if I say, God, I don't know, you know what, I don't have anything. Well, you're not gonna be angry, but
No.
I missed an opportunity to that Butch frickin' Hartman has given me, and I'm already there working. So how stupid would I be not to at least try it? And when it works, this is what happens. And
Yeah.
so,
It's
from an acting standpoint, if
mhm,
you're already there with a guy at this level who
mhm.
says, "I got this thing. I'm kind of full on the other actors. Have you got something?" Your response is, "You bet I do," regardless of how it works out.
Yeah.
And so
Amen. And
I
I,
love
and
that you
then,
trust
dude,
me.
yeah, and yet I just want everybody to know who's watching this. Not everybody's like Rob either. Rob is a very appreciative guy. there are actors out there who aren't appreciative. A lot of them, and mostly some new people will like they'll be late all the time, or if you give them an
Mm,
idea of what to do, they hate that. They don't like suggestions.
yeah,
It's I tell people all the time, actors, interns, I'm like, guys, be nice to everybody, because it's a very small industry. You want to be, and for example, you taking a shot at it, a voice that you weren't ready for, means I know I can ask you again later on. You're a guy I'll call back because you're easy to work with and you deliver the goods. It's like
right.
you're there to make my life easier, not harder. You
Yes,
know,
that's the idea when we go in. In fact,
yeah,
I think a lot of, well, you just said it. A lot of actors, we all get nervous for obvious reasons because we want to kill it, we want to do our best, we want the job. But when you when you go in with the attitude that I'm going to make Mr. Hartman's day better by killing my audition, and remember that whether or not I get Mark Chang or the Box Ghost or whomever, if I do a great audition, you'd be silly not to have your assistant say, write that guy's name down. I'm not sure if he's right for this, but man, is he thinking?
yeah,
A number of times that I've gone back years later, where someone like you is at Disney now and say, hey, Rob, I want to bring you in on this. I don't know if you remember, but I auditioned you for blah, blah, blah. You read it.
mhm,
It turns out it wasn't exactly what we were looking for, but boy, were you thinking. I saved
yeah.
that.
Oh,
Here it
nice.
is. How about this one? Boom, I got a series. So to me, the auditioning is, look, when you're auditioning and you've said it, you got 30 guys. Well, okay, you can look at it and say, oh my God, 30 guys. Or you can say, well, wait a minute. I just came from an audition, an on camera audition for Pepsi Cola, and they're seeing 100 people today and 100 tomorrow, and then they're going to cast in New York and Chicago. I am one of 30 on this today. I've already won. So, yeah, go ahead and go after Mark Chang.
Hmm.
But when Butch says, have you got anything else? You say, yeah. And the worst that can happen is you don't get this one, but you've left your mark with, no pun intended, you left your mark on the audition for Butch and the other people in the room to hear how smart you are, how clever you are, how easy to work with you are. And then
Mhm.
you leave everybody with a good taste in their mouth, man, because this is a marathon. I've been in Hollywood for 46 years. And I started working with you in the 80s. Is
It
that
was
right?
early 90s, early
Early
90s.
90s? All right, 30 years ago.
I know, dude.
You know,
I honestly, the young people out there have no idea until you get to be here at this age what it's like. You're like, man, how did that time go by so quick? And it's true, Rob.
yeah,
The time goes by so fast. You don't have time to mess around. You
yeah,
don't have time for regrets. All you have time to do is get in, do what you love as quickly as possible if you can, and
and
just
move
don't give
forward.
up. I got a
Yep,
question for you here.
please.
Dude, and by the way, everybody out there, Rob and I could go on for 6 hours. We really could, because we've known each other for, as you said, 30 years.
Yeah.
We were married briefly, but we'll get into
Well,
that
we were.
later. We'll,
Well, yes, I felt I was committed to the relationship, and I often
right,
say to people, look, I've known Butch long. I mean, I've seen him naked. The constant refrain, I'm sure by your audience today, is who hasn't? And
exactly right. And we'll be right back. And
right,
we're coming back after this. All right,
yes.
so also this question is for Rob. When you were first starting off in the voiceover business, was it hard to break in, and was it ever discouraging when you wouldn't get a role? And what did you learn from those experiences? Kind of a big question, but was it hard to break into the voiceover industry?
Well, yes, but hard is a relative term. Um, like right now, and I'm not trying to put a big, damper on the thing, but being a FEMA employee going to try to help the people, in the flood ravaged areas of our country, that's a
Mhm.
hard job,
That's
right?
hard.
That's
Yes.
hard. Being a
Yes.
cop is a hard job. Being a
Right.
teacher is a hard,
Mhm.
being a farmer is a hard job.
Yep.
Owning a business in California is hard because while the rewards might be great, you have to jump through all sorts of
Regulations.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Nobody shoves a gun in your mouth to be an animator or an actor. Nobody.
True.
In fact, often you upset the people who love you the most, your parents, a girl whom you might be in love with and says, I know you want to go to LA, but my family's here. And you say, I know, sweetie, but I, I can't not do this. Well, then I'm sorry. But so that's the hard part. When you
Yeah.
get here, if you've got a half a brain or a pinky, you have to know that, of course, there are going to be a lot of people. There will always be more performers, more world-class animators, more better,
Hmm.
more wonderful singers than there will be jobs. But it's a
Yeah.
choice. So yeah, I was broke. It was difficult. We all were broke. We'd all have to do odd jobs and stuff like that to survive. And of course, but I used to give myself an hour to feel sorry for myself and say, all right, all things being equal, would you prefer to be back in Michigan or graduating from college now and starting your corporate life at this point? No, I'd rather be here. So you better
Hmm.
get ready because it's now time to go to the restaurant and do your shift as a waiter or clean an apartment if you're doing that to make extra
I've
money.
had many people that I've hired over the years and work with younger people who don't live in California or near the industry, and they say, "Well, I really want to be a writer. I really want to be an actor." I say, "Well, get out here and give it a try." Well, it's just too hard. I can't. I
Yeah,
go, well, there's millions of
well,
other people out here that are trying. So, it's
sure. And so
yeah,
that might be changing because of the nature of like what we're doing right now. We're on the
right.
internet. We have, okay, and that's great. But in those days, it was New York or LA, and I like
Hmm.
fancy cars and I love the beach, LA. And I wanted to primarily be in TV, music, movies, animation came along because what often happens, folks, is you put yourself in a position to get lucky. I didn't come out here just to do animation. But when I got here, the opportunity arose and I thought, wow, you bet everybody wants to do cartoons and nobody gives a damn what I look like. I'm not limited by this. I'm only limited by my chops and the kindness of people to hire me like Butch. And then you help
Hmm.
each other get better and better. And you go, oh my goodness, did I ever hitch my wagon to the right star? Um,
Yeah.
because the first thing that I did, which was I think one of the smartest things I did, was surround myself with people who were way more gifted than I. People who
Same
I
with me. Yeah.
could look at and say, like Phil Hartman was a early, really good pal. And I used
Hmm.
to look at Phil and I would call him terrifyingly inspirational. But he was
Wow.
8 years older than I. And he'd been where I'd already been. And he would say,
Hmm.
dude, you got it. You got stuff. It's not about being me. It's about finding little bits and pieces that make Rob more marketable, make
Right.
Rob more courageous, and that's what happened. So yeah, it was tough. I was It was down to me, Billy West, and Charlie Schlatter for uh, Futurama, Philip J. Fry, and
Mm.
uh, Futurama is now on its God knows how many iteration.
Yeah.
Billy was absolutely the right choice. Absolutely. He's one of my best friends in the world. And
Hmm.
Charlie is another dear friend of mine. But this isn't about uh, being nice or being not nice. They made the right choice. I've had a great career and I love Futurama. I wish I'd have gotten a gig, but
Yeah.
there's not one thing I could argue about watching Billy on that show doing
Oh yeah.
Fry, Zoidberg, and Dr. What's the other one? There's another doctor. Uh, Good news, everybody. Whatever. Um,
Yeah,
anyway,
you're gonna kill me on that one because I actually don't watch Futurama a lot. I'm one of those weirdos that doesn't
right.
really
Well,
watch it
but
all
it
the time
doesn't.
too.
But he's done lots of stuff. Regardless, of course, there are heartbreaking things. But if you can get
Yeah.
into your mind that when you're auditioning, there might be 10,000 guys because there are 200,000 members of the Screen Actors Guild. So let's say there are 5,000 guys in LA and New York who might be right for the thing you're reading for. but you're
Mhm.
there. You
Yeah.
got the call. You're in front of Butch. You're in
Mhm.
front of Steven Spielberg. You
Mhm.
got the call. So your job is to give them what they ask for the best way you can. And when they give you the freedom, like Butch does, to say, you got something else? Anything else you want us to see?
Mhm.
Sure. And then this excitement that you see is not manufactured, it's authentic because
Yeah.
that's what you want. You want somebody who can make a difference to see how good you are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
there you go.
One other question for you here. I got so many
Yeah.
coming in, but we don't have time for all of them. Someone says, another question for Rob is, how do you go about improvising lines for characters during recording sessions? Do you recommend improvising lines, or is it risky to do that?
Well, improvising is something that comes with doing it a lot because it's initially it's a little bit terrifying.
Mm,
I got to bring up Phil Hartman again. I would go to see Phil at the Groundlings with Will Ferrell, with you know, Pee Wee, Paul Rubens,
mhm.
Sherry O'Terry,
Yep.
Tris McNeil. Are you kidding me? These people who just are unstoppable with their head.
Yeah, no.
And
It really truly is a gift. It's
it's
crazy to watch them.
literally, in the best use of the word, it is awesome, awe-inspiring.
Hmm.
And so, what I tell people all the time that acting is acting. Part of acting is taking improv. I took lots of improv with groundlings, with other people. I've been in workshops where I help teach it. A couple of my dearest friends are Dave Foley and Kevin McDonald from Kids in the Hall,
Oh my God, genius.
stupidly gifted
Geniuses. Yeah.
actors, right? And so that's why I tell people learn to act, do improv. Because when you're in front of a bunch of people, you're in front of 100 folks having a couple of pops on a Friday night, and you're up there on the stage, and somebody says, okay, give me a scenario. All right, Rob, you are an explorer, and Butch is a polar bear who really has had enough of living in the cold and wants to live in Hollywood. Go. So we don't know what that's about, but we trust
Right.
ourselves and we trust each other, and then you go with it. And the worst that can happen is that it doesn't work and the audience laughs at you, and then you try it again. But when you're
Yeah.
able, when you go in a more of a sequestered, safe learning environment, that's where you screw up. That's where you swing for the fences, and then everybody says, "Oh, I don't know what you were doing there, Rob, but it didn't work." So what? Okay.
Yeah.
So when you have the confidence and you start to build a bit of a reputation with people like Butch around town, and they say, Robbie, we're having a tough time with this line. Have you got something? Yeah, sure. And what happens is whether or not Butch uses my line is not the issue. Butch has the confidence in me or John DiMaggio or Fred or Gray or Tara or Carlos over, you hear what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Or Ron Perlman, wonderful actors. And whether or not what you ask us to help you with works, it might inspire you or one of your writers to say, oh my God, here you go, Butch, try that. Killer. It is a collaborative effort. It's not about whether or not I'm the guy who saves the show. It's about the show. And Butch hires me and others because he
Mhm.
knows we're going to make his show better. Whether or not what we come up with ends up in the show, we're willing to play. And when
Mhm.
you're at that level, you're going to get something from one of the people I suggested who makes it better. And
Awesome.
that is why that's a great thing. Let me very quickly, in auditions, if you're going to do an improv, I do it all the time. Um, I would do it after you've done a couple of takes of exactly what the producer is asking for, the best that
Right.
you can, the best that you can discern. Because sadly, we don't have the luxury of having Butch in front of us. You can read the room. When I walked in and I try something, and I see Butch going, I know that I've at least hooked them a little bit. Someone else whom I've never worked with, and they can say, "Can't use that," but in that vein, I
Yeah.
like that, Rob. Let's go there. Okay, you
You did
probably
something once. It's a great episode where Timmy and the Fairly Odd Parents get whisked away by a tornado,
oh yeah,
and they think it's like the Wizard of Oz, and so they land in a strange land, and they think it's wow, it's actually Cleveland, and they go, wow, the land of
Cleve.
Cleveland.
Isn't
Look,
that great?
there's the Cowardly Lion, and then there's a hairy homeless guy, and the script said something. Homeless guy says something, and you improvised. I want to go to Florida. And we kept it was just a funny line. I was at the time it was
Oh,
very funny.
see, and that's because you have a context. Now, the actor to whom I'm speaking, and by the way, I say actor, I don't say actress, actor. You're an actor. Okay.
Yes.
Context, and you're living your life watching cartoons, watching movies, not at the expense of your marriage, okay? But your context. Do you know any really good actors or producers who are stupid, Butch? I don't.
No, not at all.
I know people whom I have nothing in common with politically or sports wise.
Right.
None of them are stupid. So they all have a context from which to say, I want to go to Florida. And in the context of the show, it makes sense.
It
Because I
makes total
know,
sense.
right, because I know having watched uh, Midnight Cowboy, one of the things that is difficult for Dustin Hoffman in the movie is he wants to get out of here because it's too freaking cold in
It's
New York
cold,
City,
yeah.
right?
That's a good.
So
I never knew you were referencing that. It was funny. That's good. Yeah.
there you go. And so that's why go ahead and tweak a line because you never know if it might be something that flags you to the producer, but do it
Yeah.
after you've respected the script and do what you can decipher exactly what he wants or she wants.
Our rule was always, look, I mean, grateful that you're here. Please give us what we need because that's what we wrote for the last 3 weeks. But if you can
Yeah,
improve on it, we're your biggest fan. We'd love to hear it. And if you can't, then don't worry about it. But we got some
don't
great
worry
stuff
about it.
here.
Exactly. By
And
the
if you
way,
can get
that's what you said. It's not a prerequisite for getting the job. Um,
right.
right. Improvising. Right.
Yeah, but once you can deliver and you can make our lives easier and you're fun to work with. I mean, we just like at the end of the day, I tell people everybody wants to have a good time in their job during the day. And if you can be an actor that makes things fun, great. If you can be a producer that makes things fun, writer, whatever.
Yeah.
But when we get in the entertainment business and start ruining our jobs because we're trying to either control things or being an egomaniac and all that stuff,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
where it goes out the window. And I just caution people all the time. Just be open to suggestion, be open to notes,
Absolutely.
and
Oh my
just
gosh.
listen and yeah.
I love it. I love it when I learn something. I love it when you say, hey, Robbie, I'll explain this line later, but trust me, just try this. And I
Right.
do it, and it's hysterical. Uh, and I don't even know why. And then you tell me, or the writer says, yeah, this is, and I have personal experience just like that. When we did the reboot of Animaniacs a couple of years ago, there was in the first episode of Pinky and the Brain, there was a point at which Pinky is helping Brain devise this video game to take over the world. And the line is Pinky screams, Leroy Jenkins! Now, I don't know what that means. I'm not a gamer. I just, Pinky screams. So I did it, you know, Pinky balls to the wall, screaming. And I said, would somebody please explain this to me? So one of the writers, a lovely young lady from Harvard, not stupid, who was maybe
Yes.
30, came out and said, "Oh, here's the video. This is a character in World of Warcraft or one of those. Some of your
Yeah.
some of your fans might know, but it made perfect sense in the context of the script because the
Right.
script was written to appeal to today's audience. So I
Mhm.
learned a lot. I didn't go, what the hell is this? I said, all right, it's your time. Leroy Jenkins. And now I know what I'm talking about. And I
Right.
love learning. So anyway, there you go.
Hey, you know what? You're gonna kill me, Rob. We have flown through our time. We have
I know because I won't shut up.
no, because you're just giving all, and that's what I appreciate and love about you so much. And
Oh, well,
I'd love to
Rob,
do a part two one of these days. Would you come back for part two, three, and four?
You bet. I am almost done with rehab, so I know that I'm going to be available. Um,
Great.
no, listen,
Well,
Butch, honestly, I know I've only been able to answer just a few questions, but you were kind enough to be on my podcast more than once. And as Butch has said more than once, it always bears repeating. Look, folks, we're in the happy business. And anytime any of you folks out there are fortunate enough to do something that lights your soul up, you do it for the noblest of reasons because you can't not do it. That is why you see two guys from Michigan who didn't know a soul and have been
mhm.
beyond fortunate in so many ways, families, healthy children, grandchildren, all these wonderful things. And we get to make a living doing something we would do for free. And that's the God's honest truth.
True.
So whether you make a dime at this or not isn't so much the issue, is to do something that lights up your soul. And if you make a living in the insurance business because it pays well, and then on the weekend you hook up with a guy like who's an animator in LA and a writer in South Africa and an actor in Iceland and a musician in Cuba, that's your Jones. Do it. If you make money, great. But I promise you, no one out here started out saying, I'm going to get rich being an animator or producing cartoons. You
Yes,
know,
for sure.
we both against the wishes of people who loved us, not that it broke their heart, but we came out here not knowing a soul and somehow we figured it out. But man, it is still all about being nice and kind. And when you get a chance to work with people like Butch, who could behave any way they want, and they choose to be decent, and they choose to be kind, and they choose to be generous with their time, that's how you behave when you're lucky enough to cultivate anything resembling celebrity. So thank you,
Yeah.
Butch. You have
Well, hey,
been
my brother,
a total
I
blessing in my life.
feel exactly the same way. You're a blessing in mine, and I knew when I called you for this, it'd be no problem. I knew you'd say yes. But you're such a rich bastion, a rich cauldron of genius. There's no way we could touch on all of it in 30 minutes. And
Cauldron of
so,
genius. I love you
cauldron,
take that.
yes, yeah, kind of a waste tank of genius. That's what you are, sort
Yeah,
of.
you know what? I'm gonna have a couple of pops later say, I gotta tell you, oh yeah, you think you're a big deal? Get what Hart Butchman said to me. He said, you, Ron Pullman, you're a septic tank of creativity,
You're
right?
like that barrel of oil in the mechanic's
Yeah,
garage. That's of genius. That's what you are.
that's what he
Waste,
said. So
waste oil.
people, people say, wow, you won an Emmy. And I say, yeah, I did. And that and $6 will get you a Frappuccino. I'm not going to give it back. And I got no reason to do this. So anyway, thank you, my brother, and your
Well,
beautiful
look, man,
daughter.
Rob, we are so grateful, dude. And if you guys have questions for Rob, Rob, where can they find you? You're doing Animaniacs live now all over the country. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
you were just in Vegas last
Where
weekend.
else can we find you?
That, but also you can go to robpaulsonvoice.com, which is there's my website and my book and all that stuff. But you can also find out the cons. I got four more coming up this year. Later this week, this month, I'm going to Chattanooga, then Phoenix, then Detroit in three in a row. So those are coming up. But then they're booking a bunch of new ones for you and me, I'm sure, next year. So
Yep,
robpaulsonvoice.com, Paulsen. My Facebook is Rob Paulsen Voice Actor. Instagram is Rob underscore Paulsen. And TikTok is Rob Paulsen 311, because that happened to be my birthday. So that will give you way too much information about some old guy who's fooled Butch into paying him American dollars.
that's right. That's right. Hey, man. Well, we love you, buddy. And again,
Ditto,
this
pal.
isn't even we didn't even scratch the surface of scratching yet. We got so much. So you're such a deep. Again, you're such a deep sort of a garbage disposal of
Right.
genius.
Septic tank of creativity. I am going to put that on my next book. Butch Hartman says Rob Paulsen is a septic tank of creativity. No shit.
I said
Yeah,
cauldron of genius is what I said.
cauldron of genius. Butch Hartman's Cauldron of Genius coming up next. Yeah.
We'll be right back, and we'll be right
Anyway,
back.
thank you, buddy. Give
But
my
love you,
love to your
buddy, and
beautiful
have a
wife.
great rest of your day. And we love you, man. And guys, find Rob wherever he is found, and you'll never be disappointed. He'll always entertain you. But we'll definitely get a part 2 going for this. We love you, buddy.
I'm in. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.